1. Sitting on a bar side by side with a beautiful girl, eating a delicious seafood. That was me 2 hours earlier. It only took 30 minutes and 3 life signs ignored to make everything turn upside down. What you are about to read is the story of a guy who had his chances, but he simply fucked up. Here in Brazil, we have some disgusting places to eat that are marvelous. Maybe you have some of those in your own town. Cheap restaurants, smoky scent, greasy food, and if you are lucky, some rats to keep you company. In places like these, the dirtier the better. In my neighborhood, there's this hot dog where you can put everything on it. They have its own homemade mayonnaise, wide famous for its secret recipe. With a touch of lemon, I guess. Sometimes white, sometimes green, sometimes brown, you never know. I had just left work after a busy day, so I ordered the hot dog with everything I deserved. A bread open in the middle with a beautiful sausage on it, and minced meat. Yeah, that's how we do it. Then I put a sauce made with tomatoes, onions, salsa, olive oil and vinegar, grated cheese, and the best part, French fries on top. Another particularity of this place that makes it one of a kind. As I was not satisfied, I gave the hot dog a bath with the mayonnaise I told you about before. After I finished it, the hunger was over, my belly said, but my mind wasn't convinced, so I ordered the second one. That was the first sign life gave me that day, and I ignored it. As you'll see, a foolish mistake. When I was about to finish, the phone rings. My girlfriend, remembering our anniversary, asking where we'd be going to dinner for celebration. I don't know the whole world, but I assume that here and everywhere to anyone, it means trouble. Once you are in a bad situation with no way out, the playbook tells you to minimize the damage instead of try to overcome it and make it worse. And when your girl is in the middle of it, the universe will do everything to make you fail. Plus, if you don't follow the basic rule of telling the truth, oh boy. Be sure the gods, the spirits, the trees, the turtles, the air, even a retired man relaxing on a Caribe with his mojito, works against you. I knew that. I'm almost 30 and already had enough experience in this matter. Hey baby, I said, I forgot our anniversary. I've already eaten and I'm completely full. In fact, I'm not feeling very well. I'm very sorry for this. What can I do to compensate it? But of course, I didn't take the wise way. Otherwise, my story would end happily ever after and I wouldn't be writing this. Instead, I said, Hey baby, I was just thinking about you. Oh, thanks. Happy anniversary for us. I love you too. Of course I remembered it. In fact, you just spoiled the surprise. I'm in the cab right now to catch you up. Are you dressed? And that was my second mistake that day. I took a cab in a hurry and, since I was near my house, arrived soon enough to make my lie easy to believe and avoid making the monster who lives in every girl wake up. Once I had no conditions to eat anything, I suggested a cheap place located in the vicinity. A bar that, despite its simplicity, has the best seafood on earth. She was upset, I could see it, but she loves seafood and I convinced her that she would never forget the taste she was about to experience. I talked so much of the food, put so much effort and exaggeration on it, that guess what? I ended up convincing myself that I was hungry again. Can you believe it? We ordered 2 sururus. Sururu is a kind of clam typical from our shores. It's really good. The dish is served as a soup, made with coconut milk and other fuck the cholesterol ingredients. Why, God, why? That was my third and fatal mistake. Why are you sweating, honey? Are you sick? And before she could end the sentence, I ran to the bathroom. Bad things happened there, and I don't dare to write them down here. What you need to know is this. The flush was broken. A cheap restaurant, remember, and I needed more time to get rid of the intoxication. I washed my face and tried to look good. I returned to the table and said, Sorry baby, I have to go home. There's no flush in the bathroom and I'm feeling very sick. But please stay here and finish your sururu. I'll take a cab, go to my house to use the bathroom, and before you notice I'll be right back, okay? She had no option but to agree with this plan. Humiliated, I took the cab. On my way, the phone rings again, a message. "What did you do?" The stench coming out the bathroom took all over the place. The waiters are looking to our table. I had to tell the truth. She got angry, very angry. She said she was paying the bill and would take a cab to my house. We need to talk. Oh no. Relationship discussion with a stomachache. What a bad combination. But I was not in a position to argue. All I could think is going home and do what I have to do before she arrives. The taxi driver starts a cheap talk. I'm not in the mood for this. He insists I can't think of anything but the bathroom. The closer I get to my house, the harder it is to put up with the pain. The cab stops. "Keep the change." I crossed the path, running, and reached the stairs. I never noticed till that moment how big they are. My heart accelerates. Each step is a challenge. In front of my door, I have a problem finding the keys. Why didn't I search for them in the cab? It's too late to think about it now. Open the door. The cat comes to say hello. I ignore him. I can see the bathroom. I took the trousers off, but I didn't make it in time. My whole life passes like a movie in my mind, and I try to understand where I lost control of everything. That I shouldn't have lied. That I shouldn't have ordered 2 hot dogs. I revised the day step by step, just to find where I could have saved the half second I needed to get in the toilet in time. But now it's too late to cry over the spilled milk. While I was there, humiliated, completely alone, except for the company of my cat, who seems to enjoy the strong scent, the bell rings. My girlfriend. As if this story could get worse. I yelled, "Go away!" "What's happening?" she replied. But before I could say anything, the warm air entered her nose, and she understood the whole picture. She was very angry, and that didn't help. "I never want to see you again," was her last words. I know it's not true. She's just upset, and we'll talk about it later for sure. When the time comes, I'll have the opportunity to tell her how sorry I am for ruining our anniversary. Meanwhile, I'm here, plunged into humiliation, watching my cat feeling sorry for me. His name is Sirius, by the way, and he is black. Sirius Black. It has nothing to do with anything, but I think I owe you some piece of cuteness after you read this whole tragedy. So it's winter, but my friend and I decide to defy the snow this beautiful sunny day. We decide to take a walk through the neighborhood where we grew up together to catch up and talk about life. The usual stuff. As our walk is nearing its end, we get to this slope. At the slope, you have the option to either go around it or to take your chances walking and running downhill. It's a bit too steep to walk downhill safely. If it's the least bit muddy or icy, it's a guaranteed slip and fall. This day it's covered in fluffy snow, slowly melting in the sun. So walking down safely is out of the question. My friend is turning right to walk around it. That's when I get this flashback from when we were kids rolling down the slope, getting all dizzy and laughing uncontrollably. So I say to my friend, "Hey, you remember when we used to roll down this hill as kids? Should we do that again? Wouldn't it be nice to relive that memory?" My friend is very hesitant, but now I'm completely determined to embrace my inner child and get us both rolling down this hill. She's complaining that the snow will soak through our clothes. I argue that we're just a few minutes from home, so after a bit of convincing, we reach the decision that I will go first, so I can catch the most of the loose snow and create a path for her to roll in. So off we go. I threw myself down the hill. Even though rolling down the hill as an adult hurt a bit more than I remembered it did as a child, I laughed loudly all the way down and reached the bottom of the slope unharmed. My friend copies my moves and we both end up just lying in the snow at the bottom of the slope, laughing uncontrollably. Now, you're probably thinking, how is this a TIFU story? Oh, just wait. After collecting ourselves and calming down a bit, The laughter slowly turns to giggles and we decide it's time to get up and get moving. After walking just a few meters, I catch a whiff of a very unpleasant smell. By the facial expression of my friend, I see that she's smelling it too. Maybe the garbage truck just passed by, I say. As we walk on, the nasty smell is still following us. And no garbage can is in sight. We start discussing if it might come with the wind from a construction site, where they're messing with sewage system. The smell is still too strong, and we can't see any construction going on either. It finally dawns on us, and we're left with no more excuses. The smell is coming from us. We look at each other, and at first glance, we both look perfectly normal. At closer inspection, I notice something smeared on my friend's shoulder. I sniff it, and my stomach drops. Dog poop. We're both completely covered with it. It's smeared from shoe level to shoulder. It's even in my hair. We both start gagging and realize there's no way to continue this day together. We need to get home and get sanitized as soon as possible. After picking up the speed, hoping that we won't have to face any other people out walking, we then quickly say goodbye and rush home. Once at home, just getting out of the clothes without making the mess any worse was a real challenge. I emptied the bathroom of everything and slowly stepped out of my clothes, coughing and gagging all the time, leaving the pile of shit-stained clothes to deal with later. I stepped into the shower. When I got to cleaning my hair, I couldn't keep it in anymore, and puked over myself, as my fingers tried to get the pieces of poop out of my curly hair. I still can't believe how the dog poop got all over. There must have been more than one log hiding there under the snow. Most of the clothes I threw away immediately, but I tried to save the jacket. A new winter jacket isn't cheap, but no matter how much time I spend cleaning it, I just can't help but gag a bit when I see that jacket. 3. This happened last night at about 11:30. First, a little backstory. My last eye exam was in 2006, and in the last 11 years, apparently my eyes have gone to complete shit. Getting tired of Mr. Magooing all over town, squinting to see any distance whatsoever, and having to hold anything I need to read at an arm's length that would make Stretch Armstrong ooze at the armpit with envious corn syrup. I broke down and went in for an eye exam. Turns out I needed trifocals, the likes of which I'm pretty sure they use in the Hubble telescope, to focus the light from distant galaxies. So I go and get an eye exam, and continue to squint along for the few weeks it took for the new glasses to arrive. The day came and I anxiously opened the glass case to reveal my snazzy new specs. My new glasses are housed in a nice-looking frame that kind of mimics my sunglasses, almost Ray-Banish, with a hint of something Adam Savage would have picked out, had he not been able to completely focus on his image in the mirror while trying on new frames. Now, if you've never had to adjust to multifocal glasses, let me give you some insight. Do you know that sickening, wavy, room-spinning thing you get when you're about 3 Long Island iced teas over your bodily limit? Well, couple that with the way things look as the tunnel vision sets in, just prior to passing out. Yeah, that's what it's like every time you turn your head or move your eyes. Until your brain catches up with what's going on, everything is distorted. The keys on your keyboard look like a field of wonky parallelograms. All of the neatly displayed cans in the canned food aisle at the grocery store all look to be different sizes. Some short and squat, some tall and skinny. It's almost like you're wearing a set of funhouse mirrors on your face. Nausea and headaches become old drinking buddies, but almost all of your hand-eye coordination flies right out the window. Fast forward to last night, 72 hours in with the new spectacles. I'm a prop builder and motorcycle enthusiast, so there's always something on the workbench. So I'm out in my shop, working on a new project, burning a little midnight oil, getting ready to call it a very long day, and going to bed. I was cutting out 2 circular patterns from some thin leather to use as washers to put under the seat on my bike where it bolts to the fender. Having somewhat adjusted, or so I thought, to the new glasses, I pulled my knife hand away and reached in with the other hand to pick up the freshly cut scrap of dead cow. Now I had just, not 30 seconds before, replaced the blade with a new one, as I had broken the very tip end off the old one, and I cannot stand the nubbed off blade. That's when it happened. The blade entered the side of my right index finger, yeah, I'm a lefty, at the knuckle with the same ease and effort it would take a samurai sword to cut warm butter. The funny thing about traumatic injuries is that you don't feel them as they're happening. Your brain doesn't have time to fully process the scope of what has just gone down. The blade went into my finger and stopped. Instead of doing what every other normal human being would do, my reaction was to jerk the blade away quickly and violently in an upward and away motion, further filleting my digit like a Ginsu knife cutting a soda can. Immediately, blood came gushing out of the wound, covering my hand, the workbench, the leather, the shop floor, the paper towel roll, and anything else within spurting distance. I kid you not, it looked like a goddamn Civil War hospital up in here. Having been a medic during my military service, I applied pressure and elevated to extremity. Now, I'm not the type who passes out over this sort of thing, but I had to sit down as I felt the diaphoresis and lightheadedness wash over me. I started rhythmically breathing to calm the effects, and once I felt I could kind of move around, I went to get my wife out of bed in order to drive me to the ER. Enter these damned glasses again. As I went to walk into the house, the waviness of my vision through these new binoculars threw me right back onto the edge of a vomitous, flailing, Shakespearean death scene-style blackout. But in fine British fashion, I kept a stiff yet quivering upper lip and made it to the bedroom to fetch my peacefully sleeping lovely wife. I did a pretty good job of controlling the blood flow, but as the wife was getting dressed, I attempted to clean the wound in the sink by running water over the affected area. Hitchcock himself would have been impressed by the gore circling the drain, as the life poured from my somewhat severed yet still attached finger. Okay, maybe not severed, but you couldn't tell it by the amount of red everywhere. Upon seeing this, the wife's haste in dressing sped to a blur, and once again the wash of faintness came flooding back over me. We get to the ER, and my makeshift paper towel bandage was doing its job quite well. Hell, if it weren't for the fact that I was holding my clotted towel, bandaged finger, above heart level, you wouldn't have been able to tell there was anything wrong, as I had quite recovered nicely from my near-fainting episode. I get checked in and prepare to sit there and wait it out, as I'm quite familiar with ER waiting times. You never realize how much you rely on 2 hands until one of them is occupied, and you have to fumble around trying to do even the simplest things you never knew you needed 2 hands to do. I must have fumbled and almost dropped my phone 3 times. All I could think was if I dropped this onto the ER waiting room floor, I would need to autoclave the sick people funk off my iPhone. As I pondered what would happen to the electronics in a hot wet vacuum, the ER nurse called me back into the exam area in record time. The doctor came into the exam room and nonchalantly plotted his approach to reattaching the flap I had created in my once perfect finger. As thoughts of never being able to play the piano again, and having to pull my name from the extensive list of the world's hand models, he began to suture my knuckle back into some semblance of normalcy. As the second suture was being inserted, my old friend Passiouti came poking his head into the room to remind me that I was a clumsy, fallible blind oaf who had no business using sharp objects while adjusting to new trifocal glasses. This time his appearance made it so I had to lay down, as any and all remaining notions of my manliness exited my body like a cartoon ghost climbing out of a body and floating up toward the heavens. Laughing at my clumsiness, my wife then drove me home and went back to bed. Once all the excitement of the evening began to wash away, I rewarded myself with a midnight snack and went out to the shop to clean up the crime scene and finish what I had started. 4. So I guess this technically started last night. I got the grand and great idea to make some ginger beer. You know, ginger, lemon, honey, yeast. Next day you've got a bottle of bubbly goodness. I've made it before, just not with this equipment. My dumbass decided it would be a great idea to put this yeasty warm solution in a thermos. I figured, hey, it'll stay warm a little longer, and since it's got a squishy O-ring, it'll seal up and I'll have carbonated ginger beer by morning. Nice. This was a stupid decision and idea. It really was. I can't stress this enough. Don't do this, people. Turns out those 64-ounce growler-style metal thermoses work really well. I had forgotten this factor, and figured it would cool down to normal temps after an hour or so. That way the fermentation wouldn't get out of hand. Obviously it didn't. I bottle it and get drunk, then go to bed. I wake up in the morning to clean my watch in the kitchen since I have a little detail brush on the sink. I finish cleaning my watch, then decide to go back to my room. Then I see my bottle on the counter, and offhandedly remember that I need to crack it to vent the pressure. Ever make ginger beer before? You sometimes leave all the floaties in it so it really brings out the flavor of the ginger before you filter it. I had a lot of shredded ginger in there, maybe £1/4 pound since I like my ginger beer strong. Also had bits of lemon from when I squeezed the lemons for it. I flip the latch in my container expecting a bit of a hiss, when I'm hit with a massive punk noise, and highly pressurized liquid ginger mush starts venting out of the top. Then, because of the rapid change in pressure, the ginger ale carbonates and proceeds to spray out the cap that I'm now trying desperately to relatch. Imagine your thumb on a garden hose, but you've got a garden hose full of liquid ginger ale with lots of chunks. Yeah, I ended up getting doused completely with bits of ginger all over my face and sweater. I managed to cap it, after most of the pressure has already been released. Then I rush it to the sink to vent the last of the pressure, to try and contain the mess. I vent it the rest of the way, and just kinda shake my head, realizing how badly I have just fucked up. Then I notice the rest of the kitchen. It's on the counters, the floor, the walls on the other side of the room, the cabinets, tiny white chunks with liquid running down from where they impacted. There are thousands of little ginger bits sprayed haphazardly all over the kitchen. It's naturally in every nook, cranny, and high place, and it's really obvious with the color of the walls. If this shows up under UV, it's going to look like I murdered a few dozen people in the kitchen. If I had let it ferment any longer, it could have just exploded, sending shrapnel everywhere and possibly seriously injuring myself or my housemates. Now I'm going back to cleaning the walls for the rest of the day. Edit for the recipe. For a growler, 64 ounce, would suggest a plastic 2-liter jug after this incident though, seriously. 1/4 pound of hand ginger, 2 cups honey, 4 lemons, 2 cups water. More to fill the remainder, 1/8 tablespoon of yeast, recipe suggested champagne yeast, used bread yeast instead. Boil the water, add honey, stir till it's dissolved, remove from heat. Squeeze a lemon, some pulp in there is totally fine, so long as you're good with straining all this afterwards. French press is awesome for this, by the way. Shred the ginger on a fine grater, use a handheld cheese grater with 1/8 inch holes. Stir this all together, let it cool until it's lukewarm or so, add in the yeast, pour into the container and shake it like it's an angry chipmunk for about 30 seconds. Let it sit on the counter 24 hours, you can always let it vent to check on the pressure. After that, refrigerate it immediately, and it's good for consumption. The cold will kill the yeast so they stop carbonating it. You can also add the above minus the yeast, boil it down a bit till it's almost syrupy, and mix it with seltzer water, same effect, and without the explosion risk. It tastes delicious. Took me an hour or two to clean it up. Had to mop the floors. 5. It was the year 2010, and I had just begun my first month working at a well-known vinyl record store in Silver Spring, Maryland, called Joe's Record Paradise. I was organizing some hip-hop LPs while my boss was next to me processing payroll. It was getting close to closing time. Usually, during the last couple of hours of operation, we would get some questionable characters coming in. We were located right next to a soup kitchen, so a lot of the homeless would stop in, but never buy anything. We didn't care. We were glad they had somewhere to enjoy music and stay warm. That's when this one man comes in. He looked as if he were in his own little world. He was acting jittery, and reeked of stale cigarettes. I can hear my boss mutter, "God damn it." My other co-worker, we can call her C, asks me to come over to where she was sitting. C tells me that the guy's name is Larry, and he always comes in every Friday night trying to sell horribly scratched and unwanted CDs or bootleg DVDs. My boss often felt bad for Larry and would buy a couple of the CDs and give Larry a few bucks. Larry is now talking to my boss. C and I watch Larry hand over his paper bag, full of who knows what. When my boss reaches inside, quickly pulls his hand out, looks closely into the bag and immediately becomes furious. My boss is boiled with anger. His face is bright red and his fists are clenched tight. You could tell my boss wanted to hit Larry, but instead yells, "Dude, what in the fuck? Are you serious? Get the fuck out of my store and never come back." Larry looks confused and scared, but does as he's told. C and I look at each other, wondering what just happened. My boss heads right into the bathroom with the door still open. C and I watch as he scrubs his hands vigorously, using 2 different soaps. The hot water is steaming off of his hands. He turns off the sink, shakes his hands, and stomps angrily out of the bathroom, still muttering obscenities. C and I let him cool down for a minute. Then we ask him, "What's going on, dude? What the hell happened?" My boss sits on a stool near the register, wipes the sweat from his forehead, and tells us that while he was reaching into the bag for the CDs, he felt something mushy. He looks inside to see that it's literally human feces. Larry must have pooped in there and forgot, because he never would have disrespected my boss like that on purpose. I don't even know if Larry knew why my boss was yelling at him. While that is disgusting, I was trying so hard to hold in my laughter. From that day on, he was coined a new name, Shitty Larry. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Embarrassing Stories, episode 35. And thank you very much to everyone who allowed their stories to be used in this video. Special shout out to Dave for his Shitty Larry story. Dave has become one of my biggest contributors of late, so thank you very much for that, Dave. Now, I do have to say, story number 4 has really given me a craving for ginger beer. It's one of my favourite things. What I like to do when the weather's really hot, I'll get ginger beer and I'll put a little ice cream in it. I think it's like a ginger beer float or something you'd call it, but we just call it ginger beer and ice cream. And it's one of the nicest things in the world. You just get some vanilla ice cream, or raspberry ripple or something like that, put a dollop in, make sure you haven't filled your glass too much because it will overflow when the ice cream hits it. And good stuff on a summer day. Okay, with that I think I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.